Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good day to you. That's depending where you are in the world. I'm in London. We're doing the nighttime devotion from the devotional Christ Triumphant. We had a wonderful Sabbath. Thank you for asking. The devotional is called Christ Triumphant. The title today, We Decide Our Eternal Destiny. Daniel 4:37. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth and his ways judgment, and those that walk in pride he is able to abase. The strength of nations and of individuals is not found in the opportunities and facilities that appear to make them invincible. It is not found in their boasted greatness. That alone which can make them great and strong is the power and purpose of God. They themselves, by their attitude toward his purpose, decide their own destiny. Human histories relate people's achievements, their victories in battle, their success in climbing to worldly greatness. God's history describes men and women as heaven views them. The prophet Daniel described the kingdoms that would rise and fall. Interpreting to the king of Babylon the dream of the great image, he declared to Nebuchadnezzar that his kingdom would be superseded. His greatness and power in God's world would have its day, and a second kingdom would arise that would have its period of test and trial as to whether the people would exalt the one ruler, the only true God. Not doing this, they and their glory would fade away, and a third kingdom would occupy their place. Proved by obedience or disobedience, this also would pass away. And a fourth, strong as iron, was to subdue the nations of the world. This word, opened by the infinite God to finite human beings, recorded on the prophetic page and traced on the pages of history, declares that God is the ruling power. The voice of God, heard in past ages, is sounding down along the line from century to century, through generations that have come on the stage of action and passed away. History, prophecy testify that the God of the whole earth revealeth secrets through his chosen light bearers to the world. Nebuchadnezzar, through his terrible humiliation in the loss of his reason, was brought to see his own weakness and to acknowledge the supremacy of the living God. To every person, God has assigned a place in his great plan. By truth or falsehood, by folly or wisdom, each is fulfilling a purpose, bringing about certain results. And each, according as he or she chooses, obedience or disobedience, is deciding his or her own eternal destiny. To everyone is given freedom to act, and upon everyone rests the responsibility of their own actions. We are not to say God was, but God is. Though kings shall be cast down and nations removed, the souls that through faith link themselves with God's purposes shall abide forever. So that title again, We Decide Our Eternal Destiny, is basically summed up right at the end, where it says, Kings will be cast down, nations removed, the souls through the faith they link themselves with God's purposes shall abide forever. We decide whether we shall go to heaven or not, by our obedience or disobedience to what God wills for our lives. And it's interesting how it touches on Nebuchadnezzar, because he exalted himself above God, as did Satan initially. And if you remember, Satan exalted himself above God. He was cast out of heaven and cast down to the earth. Now, in likeness, Nebuchadnezzar saw Babylon as his heaven, because he was the king of heaven. He was I created all this myself. And he was cast out of his own kingdom down to the earth on all fours to act like an animal. God, through his prophet Daniel, through Nebuchadnezzar in fact, and then Daniel, gave us all the history of the world as it was and as it will happen. And it's all happened exactly as his word says, to the year of when he said it would happen, exactly how it would happen, who would be involved. And if you look at the statue, the golden statue, not the golden statue, the statue that Nebuchadnezzar dreamed, the head of gold, the chest and arms of silver, the torso of bronze, and then the 2 legs of bronze, right down to the feet mixed with clay, the legs of iron, and then right down to the feet mixed with clay and iron. We are now in those feet. In fact, we are in those toes. In fact, we are at the very end of the toenails of time before Jesus comes.